Hey, just a quick heads up. This video has already been recorded and edited like months ago, so that's why in this video I don't sound too confident. And if you notice clips looking weird or soundtracks sounding weird, that's because there are some things I had to add or re-edit, so that's why. I figure I'd let you guys know. And like my Silver Surfer video, this is a new series and I want to take characters from the Fantastic Four and place them into DC from the very beginning. I'll probably do the same with DC characters in Marvel in the future, but for now, we're sticking to this. And before we get into the video, I just want to make one thing clear. There are thousands of ways that Human Torch or any Marvel character can exist in DC. My story is not set in stone, even for myself. And I think one of the greatest things about fiction is making these Elseworlds or crossovers and explain how it can work in an infinite amount of different ways. And with that being said, let's begin. Hey, how you doing? The idea of having the youngest member of Marvel's first family be part of the DC universe is such a cool idea, and a character like the Human Torch would fit pretty well in the universe where aliens, gods, and explorers exists. Now, putting Johnny Storm in the DC universe without the rest of the Fantastic Four was a bit challenging since Johnny cannot go to space and get exposed by cosmic radiation by himself due to him only being 16 years old. So I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's change the origin. And the origin I'm going to be using is more in line with the original Ultimate Comics, with a huge difference. The Fantastic Four gained their powers not from cosmic rays in space, but from a failed teleporter accident. And since the teleporter got so screwed, Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben all each got teleported to different universes, but also give them superpowers. Johnny Storm, being in a different universe, wakes up in a hospital. His body starts to go on fire as he's freaking out. Not being aware of what just happened to him after the accident, he ran out of the hospital, causing a forest fire. And that is where Superman comes in as he noticed that there's someone covered in flames. He uses his X-ray vision to see what's going on to Johnny's body, and since fire doesn't harm Superman, Clark gives Johnny a hug to calm him down, turning off his fire form. Superman sees that Johnny Storm is just a teenager who doesn't know how to control his powers, nor he knows how he got them. Clark refuses to send him to the government, so he takes Johnny to Mr. Terrific and Batman to do some research on him. Oh, and Robin is there too. Michael Holt discovers that Johnny Storm is from a different universe that is far separated from this one, and the failed teleporter have Johnny's body come out as a different version of himself from another dimension, which is why he now has superpowers. Then Johnny asks Michael, will he ever return to his own dimension, which Michael responded with, he'll do his best. Superman and Batman thinks it's best if they train Johnny to use his powers, while Mr. Terrific is finding a way to have Johnny go back to his home dimension. And then Robin volunteers to take Johnny to the Titans Towers' training area, which from there he meets Cyborg, Beast Boy, and Kid Flash. As Johnny is practicing how to use his powers, and in the training room, he slowly forms a friendship between Dick Grayson and Cyborg. Oh, and I forgot to mention, Mr. Terrific also gave Johnny some fireproof clothing. This is where Johnny meets Starfire for the first time, and right when Johnny's about to walk up and make a move on her, he quickly backs away when he sees she's with Robin. And this is where Johnny meets the rest of the Teen Titans, Raven, Starfire, and Donna Troy. With Johnny having nowhere else to go, the Titans thought maybe he could stay with them for a while. So Johnny agrees, which he now calls himself the Human Torch as his hero name, naming himself after the original Human Torch from World War II of his universe, Jim Hammond. Kinda like what he said in Fantastic Four issue number 132. Johnny is now given a suit made by Mr. Terrific. This suit is made of unstable molecules that matches his powers, and the suit that he's given is the black and yellow suit. I just love that suit so much. It just works so well for him as a solo hero rather than having matching uniforms. Months of the Human Torch being a member of the Teen Titans, he fought many of the Rogues Gallery, such as the Hive, Deathstroke, Dr. Light, Mammoth, and Trigon. In my opinion, it would be very cool to see a point to where Trigon captured Johnny, took over his mind, and made him his herald, which it would give Johnny a demonic look, along with new abilities, and make him fight his own teammates. I know Trigon having heralds isn't something he usually do, but it's just a cool thought to think about. And which the Titans will successfully help Johnny break out of that curse. Johnny would also learn how to make hard constructs with his flames. But instead of taking notes from his sister, And here, he would take notes from Hal Jordan, Green Lantern, during a team-up the Titans had with the Justice League. And there also would be a point in time where the Human Torch and the Titans would come across and battle Blackfire. And Blackfire would absolutely hate Johnny Storm. She finds him too cocky, brash. She just wants to kill this man. But she won't. Because Johnny has something Blackfire wants. Commander would sniff the cosmic radiation from the Human Torch, while telling him something like this: "You burn hotter than me and my sister combined, and yet you were still holding back. You have cosmic power, and you don't even know it." More on that later. Eventually, when the Tower of the Bible incident happened, where Ra's al Ghul's using Batman's contingency plan methods to defeat each member of the Justice League if they turned rogue, to systematically take down the League, leading to a crisis of trust. And when the Titans heard about it, they're now starting to lose their trust in Nightwing. Oh, and Dick would have already become Nightwing at this time. There was going to be drama within the team, but right when Nightwing was going to explain everything, it got interrupted by Deathstroke's plan, revealing that Deathstroke and his squad are now using Nightwing's contingency plan for each member of the Titans, which made Johnny lose his trust in his friend even more. And right when he's about to jump in and help Nightwing stop Deathstroke, Killer Frost shows up. The Human Torch tries to fight back, but his fire only makes Caitlin Snow stronger, freezing Johnny's body. Unlike Iceman, Killer Frost can actually absorb star heat. She's basically a heat vampire. So how do you defeat someone like Killer Frost? At that point, Johnny can't. But right when Johnny's entire body starts to freeze up, Raven came in to put a stop on Killer Frost before she even gets a chance to finish the job. While not an easy fight, the Titans were able to pull the win, thanks to Raven, although she would be brutally injured from the battle. And because of that, Johnny has now lost trust in his friend, Dick Grayson, so the Human Torch and maybe a few other members left the Titans and decided to go solo. Johnny would be doing what he would normally do: partying, stopping the bad guys, flying through the clouds, being a race car driver, a mechanic, going on dates, maybe thinking of heading to college, and eventually he would come across with other heroes. Him and Blue Beetle, Jaime Reyes, will have more of a big brother and little brother kind of dynamic. Johnny would fight alongside the Kryptonians like Supergirl and Superman, showing Clark that he's getting a lot better with his powers. Him and Red Hood would probably have some beef since Johnny is very against killing. Fire and Ice? Hello? The team up just writes itself. And knowing Fire and Torch's personalities, they'd most likely be friends with benefits. Johnny would also come across the Terrifics, a little nod to Marvel's first family. Johnny would ask Michael has he found a way he could go back to his home dimension, which Michael said he's still working on it. It's a lot challenging than he originally thought. And while Johnny is off doing his own thing, he stumbled across Killer Frost, and after their last interaction, they most likely fight again. But Johnny remembers what are Caitlin's abilities, so he wonders if he can control his flame enough to scale it down to cold flames, or cold temperatures, and shoot out a concussive blast at Killer Frost. And after their small battle, Caitlin and Johnny would grow to like each other, and try to make their relationship work.
You know, they say fire and ice don't go together, but you and me?
But later, eventually they'd be put into an environment or situation where the relationship doesn't work out and they break up. I forgot to mention, Johnny has been living on his own for months now, still remaining his superhero life while having a regular job. He's still in contact with the Titans, but is unsure whether he should contact Dick Grayson or not. Oh, and Johnny's in a group chat with Cyborg, Wally, and Beast Boy. Martian Manhunter would probably distrust Johnny since fire being the Martian's weakness, and because Johnny is cocky and reckless, but after reading his mind, he discovers that Johnny's actually terrified of failure and the weight of his expectations, and his bravery is rooted in his desire to living up to the amazing people greater than him, not because he wants to be seen as the hero. Johnny would of course get along with Flash, but who would actually Johnny Storm truly, deeply bond with in a romantic level? During the middle of Human Torch fighting a powerful enemy, an unfamiliar Green Lantern shows up and decides to help him out. And that Green Lantern is Jessica Cruz. And as weird as it may sound, I think they make a great couple. Johnny being Johnny flirts with Jessica because, duh. Jessica being Jessica is shy, overthinks what to say, and tries not to look at his abs because, duh. And eventually Johnny would meet other Green Lanterns. He would have already met Hal, so we can skip him. He would be cool with John Stewart. Johnny, Simon Baz, and Kyle Rayner would all be great pals. Maybe jumping around back and forth with all the jokes and the sense of humor and all that. Johnny would poke fun of Kilowog. And him and Guy Gardner would probably f***ing hate each other. But then later, eventually, a red portal randomly opened, revealing to be Atrocitus. And Atrocitus can sense a strong spark of rage in Johnny Storm, causing Johnny to be put in a situation where he uses more anger than he usually would. He starts to remember all the unnecessary errors and mistakes he has done in the past during his time with the Titans, and even before when he got transported into this dimension. Maybe he felt bad that Susan had to grow up faster than Johnny just to raise her little brother, and now there's nothing he can do in return. Maybe the last thing he said to Ben was pretty mean, despite Johnny only being a kid at that time. Maybe there was a time where he was forced to go Nova, which he accidentally set a university on fire. Maybe it has something to do with his past failed relationships. Or maybe, and this is just a thought, maybe he could have done something to prevent the transporter to screw up. Or it could be something that happened off panel. Johnny sees himself as a screw up, and he hates himself for it. Most of the time he struggles to open up and talk about things, so he uses humor as a defense mechanism, but it made him bottle up a lot of emotion, which Atrocitus would take notice and would say something like this.
Your fire is a metaphor of how much rage you are holding back, showing the Red Lantern Corps.
Johnny would find himself in that situation, but he has to remind himself that's not who he is, and he won't let his past mistakes define who he is. And a Red Lantern is something he is not going to be turned into. He overcomes his rage before Atrocitus puts a red ring onto Johnny Storm. Green Lantern fans, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it possible to overcome your own rage before becoming a Red Lantern? If not, then I guess have Jessica punch Atrocitus in the face, or have a different lantern or a blue lantern to show up. I don't know. Fast forward, there would be this big event that happened that involves Darkseid. All the heroes of Earth and members of the Green Lantern Corps join forces to come up with a plan to stop Darkseid. The Titans shows up to join the fight. Johnny reunites with Dick Grayson. They shake hands. What kind of big event it is, nothing really specific. Maybe it could be one that involves Darkseid. And after that event ended, Wonder Woman offers Johnny a spot in the Justice League, but looking back at the Titans, Johnny turns that offer down because he believes he works best with people he grew up with. But if the League needs him, he'll be there.
If you need me. I'll be there.
Starfire, Nightwing, and the rest of the Titans would all be happy that Johnny is now rejoining the team. Suddenly, a blue portal opens up in front of Johnny, revealing, after all these years, Reed, Sue, and an orange rock fellow have finally found Johnny, now all grown up. Johnny couldn't believe what he's seeing. Susan runs up and hugs her little brother. Johnny could not believe what Ben has turned into, but he's happy to see him regardless. Reed, Sue, Johnny, and Ben would all gather around for a group hug, but they're not the only ones who came out of that portal. There's a little boy hiding behind Ben's leg, and that little boy is Johnny's nephew, Franklin Richards, which Johnny now meets his nephew for the first time. Now before I continue, there are some parts I want to break down. Like in the beginning, Nightwing and the Human Torch as friends is probably the closest to a Spider-Man and Human Torch friendship as you can get, since Nightwing and Peter does share some similarities but also some minor differences. Same goes with Cyborg, except Cyborg will share a lot more similarities with Ben Grimm, both being the hearts of their own respective teams, with a strong will to never give up. And because of that, Dick and Victor will be two of the people Johnny would be more comfortable being around with, just like how he is with Peter and Ben in the main continuity. And the villains I picked for Johnny are Blackfire, Atrocitus, and Killer Frost, I guess. Shout out to TMMM. I got the idea of Atrocitus and Killer Frost as Johnny's villains for the video, I'll link his video into the description so you guys can check it out. A fight between a Tamaranian like Blackfire and the Human Torch would be such a cool battle. Both have similar powers: fly, absorb energy, radiation. It's just cool to see. Atrocitus being a villain to the Human Torch would really help Johnny emotionally grow. And when it comes to Killer Frost and the Human Torch, I don't really see them as enemies. I see them more like one of those Spider-Man Black Cat relationships. More specifically those modern comics. Since Killer Frost is not really a villain, but she has switched from hero to villain back and forth so many times, I just don't see them working out because of the reasons what I just said about Killer Frost being a villain and a hero. And when it comes to him being a Titan, since Johnny started off as a superhero in continuity when he was 16 years old, makes him the right age to be part of the original Teen Titans roster. Not to mention, Johnny works super well as a team player than being a solo hero. But I do want him to separate himself from the Titans just a little bit. Okay, maybe temporarily separate him from the Titans because I want to explore his world around the DC universe on his own. And it's not the first time Johnny went solo by himself in the main Marvel continuity. And why Jessica Cruz? I know there's going to be someone asking why not Starfire or Fire like you mentioned before. The thing with Fire is, although her and Johnny can have a lot of fun together, the thing is that she's a little too similar to Johnny, and the story wouldn't be interesting in my opinion. And I'll talk about Starfire in a bit. If you look at Johnny's canon relationships, his decent ones, his bad ones, and his good ones, I think what he needs in a romantic partner is someone who's emotionally human / down to earth, but open to explore wild adventures, and of course is fun and has a sense of humor. While I could see Johnny and Corey working out, I think Jessica Cruz checks all those boxes I listed. Jessica, being a socially awkward dork who struggles with anxiety and self-belief, could have Johnny show his true self, the Johnny who's caring, compassionate, deep-rooted that puts his heart on his sleeve. And although Johnny is confident on the surface, he's actually terrified of failure and the weight of his expectations. Jessica exploring different worlds due to her being a Green Lantern, and the Fantastic Four being explorers and adventurers. It makes sense for them to equally be in love with adventure when they're with each other. Oh, and their sense of humor, they would be so funny. Even if Jessica's sense of humor is more on the corny side. And if you read Green Lanterns from 2016, Jessica is good friends with Simon Baz, and Simon is almost a lot like Johnny Storm. Plus, in that run, Jessica has expressed her type in a romantic partner. And if you've been reading Johnny's more consistent stories from Stan Lee, Chris Claremont, Carlos Pacheco, Jonathan Hickman, Roberto, Chip Zdarsky, Matt Fraction, Ryan North, Mark Waid, James Robinson, Marv Wolfman, Evan Dorkin, and Sarah Dyer, that is Johnny Storm. Alright, let me stop now. And going back to Johnny's DC friends, although I said Dick Grayson and Cyborg, I can also see Johnny be friends with Simon Baz and Kyle Rayner, specifically because of their personalities. Oh, could Mr. Terrific figure out and help Johnny send him back to the Marvel Universe? Perhaps. But then again, for the sake of the video, I want Johnny to explore and build up the life in the DC Universe. And as for Reed Richards, I mean, if you know Reed Richards, he is not going to give up finding Johnny Storm. So eventually, Reed is going to find Johnny and, you know, family reunion. Now I could end the video here and call it a day, but then I'm like, oh shit, what now? Is Johnny gonna go back to his home dimension? Because Johnny has built a life in the DC universe, so what now? So here's what I was thinking. Reed Richards takes an observation around the DC world, and he is not happy with the direction science was heading, further to harm society and the environment. And the same thing is happening to the Fantastic Four's home universe. So Reed Richards created the Future Foundation, making helpful tools, solutions, exploring new worlds, new universes, pushing the human race to the furthest limits of science and technology, and creating a better future for humanity. But of course, Reed needed more than just his mind, and this is for their future after all. So he gathered great minds he would gather into a team to build a better future. Johnny Storm being one of those cool teachers, he would take his students on a field trips, and by field trips, I mean a trip to another dimension. Heck, I can see some DC characters be part of the Future Foundation, not as students obviously, but more so as teachers. Honestly, I just don't see them call themselves the Fantastic Four due to Johnny being separated from his family for far too long. But the Future Foundation in the DC universe, that's actually a pretty interesting idea. So in my opinion, yes, Johnny would be part of two teams, the Titans and the Future Foundation. Being part of two groups of superheroes is nothing new. Cyborg is a Teen Titan and Justice League. Nightwing is part of the Bat family and the Titans. So this is nothing new in DC. This works just fine. And also by the end of that story, I forgot to mention that the Fantastic Four are willing to go back to their homeworld and also visit the DC universe because Johnny has pretty much built a life there. And lastly, I know you guys are commenting already. What were the rest of the Fantastic Four doing while Johnny was in the DC universe? That, I'm going to save that for a different video. Anyway, that'll be all I have for today. Let me know down below what you think. If you love Marvel, DC, Invincible, or just comics in general, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.